All right, a lot happening in Trump Tower in New York City this morning. Mr. Trump will hold a 2-hour meeting to talk to his transition team and perhaps name more members name more people that he wants to serve on his White House staff and in cabinet positions. It's seemingly taking shape this morning. Mr. Trump picked Congressman Mike Pompeo to be CIA director. He picked Congressman Jeff Sessions to be his attorney general, and he picked General Mike Flynn to be his national security advisor. General Flynn has not said yes yet, as far as we know, but we'll see. And of course, then this weekend he'll travel and he'll meet with Mitt Romney. So it's going to be a very interesting couple of days for Donald Trump. My panel is back with me now to talk about this and more. Laura Coates, David Swerdlick, and General Mark Hertling. General Hertling, I want to talk about General Flynn because I think that this is Mr. Trump's most important pick so far. And I want to center on Russia and General Flynn, because after Flynn left the Obama administration, he started this international consulting firm. He did paid speaking engagement, including several on a Kremlin-run propaganda TV channel, RT, or Russia television, right? And then afterwards, he attended this gala and he dined with Vladimir Putin. Pictures were taken, photos that were later used by Putin as a propaganda tool. So a lot of people are worried about this, General. Your thoughts?
Well, I think Mike was asked to be an analyst for RT, just like you all asked me to be an analyst for CNN. The difference
but RT is a state-run, right? A state-run television
That's where I was
network.
going with it. And I think, unfortunately, he was probably set up a little bit by going to Russia, talking with RT, and then being pulled into this dinner with a great propaganda value with Mr. Putin. That's what he was doing. It's become unfortunate. I know it has negatively affected many of our NATO and European allies. They see this as a additional cozying up with Mr. Putin, when there certainly needs to be a little bit of informed, perhaps distancing with Russia until Mr. Putin lives by the Minsk agreement and maybe does a little bit more coordination regarding what's going on in Syria. But again, this was his post-retirement attempts at getting a job, so you can't fault him for that. What you can fault them for is being sucked into the orbit of a foreign leader that the U.S. government is not too happy with right now.
Well, Laura, there's also this tweet that Flynn sent out in July, I believe, that has people wondering too. So this is what General Flynn sent out in July. He tweeted, "In the next 24 hours, I dare Arab and Persian world leaders to step up to the plate and declare their Islamic ideology sick and must be healed." Laura, thoughts?
Well, people talk about having to tone down rhetoric. I don't think it's a matter of toning it down. I think it's a matter of having the wrong opinion and the wrong viewpoint with respect to a religion that is particularly prominent throughout the entire world, not simply this country. And as the general just pointed out, there are people who are among our armed forces who are devoted patriots to this country, and to have somebody to demonize a religion based on extremism, I think is inappropriate and doesn't set a good tone for the diplomatic efforts that our president-elect will have to solidify going forward.
Well, David, Mitt Romney is rumored to be on the list for some sort of position. Could he balance Flynn?
Well, I think he would balance the administration. I don't know if he specifically balances General Flynn, but look, Mitt Romney, as a former governor, a former head of the Olympic Committee in Salt Lake, he did his Mormon mission in France. He has, it was many years ago, but he has lived overseas, and he was the nominee of the Republican Party. This is one person in this constellation of people that you could probably fairly describe as an elder statesman, certainly in the Republican Party. And I think that if there's a potential for him to be offered a senior cabinet level position, that is an encouraging sign in the Trump administration. If this just winds up being a meeting between the 2012 nominee and the 2016 winner of the presidential election, just to smooth over what was obviously some conflict back in March when Governor Romney denounced Donald Trump publicly in a speech, then I think that's also good, but then it's less significant. I think Governor Romney would be a strong candidate for Secretary of HHS, for Secretary of the Treasury, or, as has been rumored, Secretary of State. But I think they would have to jump over some hurdles and get some things worked out before it wound up being that he was nominated for one of these positions.
Yeah, because it's, the things that Mitt Romney said about Donald Trump and vice versa,
Right.
Again, it boggles the mind that these two men could actually now work together and actually listen to one another, David.
Well, look, whatever Mitt Romney, I have criticized Mitt Romney in the past. There are things, he made certainly political mistakes when he was running for president, but I think it's fair to say that this is a smart guy. This is a guy who understands how these things work, and that one thing you can say about Governor Romney is that he made his position clear in March. So if he goes into the administration now, without knowing more, I think it's fair to say that this is not someone who owes something to President-elect Trump. And right now, President-elect Trump doesn't owe him anything. If he winds up being offered a position, then I would, without knowing more, I would assume that he feels like he could serve well in that role, serve the country, if not agreeing with President-elect Trump on every single foreign policy issue. There will be issues down the road. Presidents and their secretaries of state certainly disagree. You had smaller disagreements between Secretary Clinton and President Obama, but all in all, they worked well together. Same you could say with Secretary Colin Powell and President George W. Bush.
So Laura, would Mitt Romney's presence in a Trump administration soothe the nerves of people who are frightened out there in our country?
Possibly. I'm a public servant, and I know that Mitt Romney says that he is as well, and indeed is, and has a record of being so. And I think that if you really do believe that there is a necessity to be a gatekeeper or a buffer between Donald Trump's more polarizing ideology and the rest of the world and our nation, then you do have a duty to act as the gatekeeper or as the buffer who can actually guide the hand of the president, advise appropriately, and ease the mind of people who fear that those polarizing viewpoints will impact not only the national security of our nation and our armed forces, but also jeopardize our global positioning. I think that Mitt Romney could serve in that position, in that capacity, with full faith and credit of the American people, especially because he was somebody who was so vocal against Donald Trump. And we're not perceiving him to be somebody who simply is trying to aggrandize himself for selfish reasons. If anything, the Secretary of State is the person who would help somebody who lacks in foreign policy experience navigate this very, very uphill battle that we will have if we continue to have advisors who have anti-Islamic and polarizing sentiments.
Okay, with that, the former Michigan congressman, he's a Democrat, mind you, his name is John Dingell, you remember him. He just tweeted this out, quote, "Forget the basket. The truly deplorable ones end up in the cabinet." So General Hertling, with what you know about General Mike Flynn and Congressman Mike Pompeo, is that fair?
No, it's not fair at all just yet, Carol. I'm willing. I mean, I haven't been a supporter of Mr. Trump, but I'm willing to give him a chance, as our current president has asked us all to do. It's just an interesting lineup that we're seeing so far, and it seems a little bit, to me, heavy on the military piece. Talking about Congressman Pompeo, like I said, he was a West Point graduate. He was probably there when I was teaching there, '86, then went on to Harvard Law. He's a very smart guy, but he has made some interesting comments about the Iran deal. He has been one of the bashers of both Obama and Clinton over the last several years, and he came in on the wave of Tea Partiers, even asked, along with Senator Cotton, to go to Iran and meet with their leaders there after the deal was in place. So I'm just a little bit concerned that we've got sort of a lot of light think teeing up together, especially with almost what seems to be an extensive emphasis on hard power versus an informed soft power approach with diplomacy.
All right, I have to leave it there. David Swerdlow, Mark Hertling, Laura Coates, thanks to all of you. I'll be right back.